Hi, my name is Emma, and let's talk spooky stuff. Hi guys, welcome back. This is gonna be a long video, which I think some of you guys enjoy, but my gosh, did I watch a lot this month. Some of you guys were asking me where my last month's wrap up was. I actually just did that exclusively for my patrons. The reason I did that is sometimes I feel like I'm talking about so many different movies, and then I'm also giving them individual reviews, and then I'm also doing these big lists of 40 cult films. So I feel like I'm just doubling up on content by talking about the same film in 3 different videos. So even though these videos do so well, I feel like time to time I need to take a step back from doing monthly videos or monthly wrap-ups, just because I feel like it's just doubling up with all of my content, and I want to give you guys fresh, unique ideas. I don't want to talk about them in several videos, if that makes sense. I did do my monthly wrap-up for my patrons, just because with my patrons we have a Discord and we talk about all the movies anyway, and I feel like that's some cool exclusive content I can give them, even if I'm not doubling it up for you guys. I know that they want to know my ins and outs and all that kind of stuff. Really bad terminology there. I do want to say before we get started, I am wearing this amazing shirt. Yes, I am part of the Justin Long Appreciation Club. This is actually a shirt I made in collaboration with Loudmouththreads. This is available right now if you guys want to buy it. It does have Spooky Astronauts written on it. But Loudmouththreads and I worked on this concept together. He is an amazing independent designer in America, so very much love supporting him and love supporting independent designers. And I gave him this idea and he went nuts with it, and I love the walrus. The Tusk reference. I know some of you guys are not going to be happy with it, but that's the fun of it. It's meant to be quite niche, and I think that that fits, Spooky Astronauts a lot. It's very niche here. We like the disturbing content, and it's only fun if it's something that's a little bit different and not something that's, the same kind of icons we see on every single shirt. So I do understand the criticism if you guys aren't fans of Tusk, but if you are fans of Justin Long, he's a pretty cool dude. And if you want to check out this shirt, I'll leave the link down below. Also, you can head over to my Instagram and I'll put the swipe up link on probably all my stories for the next week. So if you want to be reminded, definitely check that out. I do want to say as a disclaimer, this design and the whole collaboration is a long time coming. It was before all of the crazy stuff that's happened in 2020, obviously before the pandemic, all of that kind of stuff, and it was put off for so many months. And because of everything going on right now, I wanted to hold off a little bit longer. So please keep that in mind, that this isn't by any means something that was meant to happen during all of this, but hopefully it will bring a smile to your day, because I love it. It's so comfy, and I love having Justin Long on my shirt. I love him. I wonder if Justin Long will ever see this. Such a creep. Okay, now all of that is out of the way. Let's jump into what I watched this month. If you haven't watched one of these videos before, I go through my whole letterboxd, which is a website. You can see the link down below if you want to follow me. I follow everyone back who follows me because I love seeing what you guys are watching as well. And I just go through everything I watched to give you some kind of recommendations on what I think you should watch, and just, yeah, catch you up with what I've been watching, and then I'll go into what TV shows I've been watching. Okay, this is gonna be a wild ride, guys. Strap in, let's go. I watched The Unknown, which I believe is a film with Liam Neeson. Is it? So long ago. Yes. You'll see there's a theme going throughout this. I did a lot of movie nights. We started doing date nights again in my house on Monday nights, and we've watched a lot of these kind of films. This one is just a typical, it's like Liam Neeson playing Liam Neeson. I probably wouldn't recommend it to you guys. I gave it 2.5. It's in the middle. I rewatched I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. I did this with some of my patrons as a Netflix hangout. If you haven't done a Netflix hangout during this time, you're seriously missing out. It's so easy and so fun. And I do like this film. It has Elijah Wood. I'm a big fan of Elijah Wood. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend it. Netflix original, so you can watch it in every country, pretty much. I then watched Murder by Numbers, which I believe I have seen before, but this is actually, I don't think it's a great film, but it's pretty surprising how horrific it gets. Ryan Gosling in it is pretty intense, and I feel like this gets overlooked a lot, but it is if you like crime kind of movies, I would recommend it. I watched As Good As It Gets. I'd never seen this film before. Man, is that shocking. What a weird ass film. It was an interesting journey to say the least, and I do like how Jack Nicholson always plays, I was going to say redeemable characters, and then I remembered The Shining, but he does play characters that don't make him look good, maybe? sometimes they're redeemable. But yeah, interesting, I hadn't seen that. Dreamcatcher is a film I do want to talk to you guys about, mainly because I want to focus on this video more on horror movies. And this one is a stinker. Look at all of your scores, guys. Stinker, Lynn Shane. I don't know, everyone was saying this was a Lynn Shane horror movie, but obviously I don't know if she didn't direct it, so I don't know why everyone was calling it Lynn Shane. I guess maybe because she was like coming back outside of The Conjuring. It was so bad. It's about a dream catcher and a kid, and yeah, I don't know what else to say. It's like meant to be possession, and don't waste your time, really don't. It's not even like one of those films that are fun to watch because they're so bad. It's just a waste of time. I then watched Once We Were Warriors, which was such a really, I love this movie. It is about a Maori family in New Zealand, and you know, violence and domestic violence in their family, and how it all plays out. It is a really sad story, but super interesting, and yeah, I would highly recommend it if that sounds like something you would want to watch. Yeah, it's really well done. I was then held against my will to watch We Are Marshall, which is like about football, American football. Absolute yikes. I gave it a 2.5. I'm sure a lot of you guys really like this movie. It's just not my kind of thing. It has Matthew McConaughey in it, and it was very predictable. From the first scene, I knew it was going to happen by the last, but maybe that's why it exists. It's there to kind of be satisfying for people, and it's based on a true story, which is very sad at the start. I don't really want to ruin what happens, but there's like a tragic event, and then everyone in the town comes together, and you know the rest. I then watched Shirley, which a lot of you guys were asking my opinion. If I don't put ratings down here, it's usually because I'm going to do a review, or if they're on embargo. Sometimes I'm so lucky and I get films early, or films I can't even get because, you know, Shudder. So it's really exciting that I get that, but I also have to hold off because there's some regulations towards that. But I believe I didn't rate Shirley because I thought I was going to do a review, but after seeing it, it was so different to what I assumed it was going to be. The trailer for it made it look more, I don't want to say like a thriller, but thrilling. And it was a little bit slower than expected. I haven't really read any Shirley Jackson stories, I have to admit. I have obviously seen a lot of movies that are adapted from her stories, so it's not like I had a good perspective on that, I felt like, and I know a couple of other people within the horror community did reviews, so I just thought I'd leave it up to the experts. But I wasn't overly impressed by this film. I mean, I love Elizabeth Moss, don't get me wrong, but I just felt like the trailer and the way that everyone was amping it up, it was so different to what I expected. It's a very strange journey, and it just felt like the editing was strange and it didn't really have a peak and a flow, but it's meant to be kind of more of an art house film, so I mean, I can't really fault it on that if that was the intent. I didn't really love it, but I know some people liked it. I would like to know what you guys think or thought about Shirley if you've seen it. I then watched Big Sky. I think this is on Stan, which is an Australian streaming service. And this is a Bella Thorne horror movie where she has the fear of like going outside and the fear of, you know, the world. And they tried to kind of like wedge it in between a horror movie, not really a horror movie, it's more of like a thriller action crime movie, and about her being kidnapped. It's a no for me. I had never heard of this movie before, so I thought that was interesting. I then watched A Missing Link. I don't have any children, just so everyone knows. I'm just a child. A Missing Link is about a Bigfoot who goes to try and find a Yeti. It's so cute. It was really cute. If you're looking for something that's easy and fun, and we need to like break up everything right now, I feel like. It's like there's so much like heaviness going on, and I don't think you should be ignoring that, but I don't think that there's anything wrong with taking an hour or two for like just to decompress, and that's definitely this kind of film for me. I watched Ready or Not. I believe I watched this with Vicky from Nightmare Maven. She had like a little hangout with her patrons, and I'm one of her patrons, so we watched that, and I love that movie. I then watched Becky, which I have a review on. I really liked that film. I watched The Happy Time Murders. It wasn't as bad as people are making it out to be. It's quite sexual, which I wasn't expecting, and I'm not a big fan of sexual humor, but I think it's quite clever. I also like Adam Sandler, so oh my god, I'm not doing myself any justice. Again, decompressing movies. I didn't pick this one. My partner picked this one. It wasn't me. Don't hurt me. But I mean, it is what it is. I wasn't expecting much. Moving on. I watched Brittany Runs a Marathon, which I believe is an Amazon exclusive. I was excited about this because I've been doing some running lately, and I thought this could be motivating. It is a little bit like triggering if you have like any body issues, but I actually thought it was like quite a cute movie. And if you're, I don't want to say if you're a female, but if you're into this kind of cute story about self-empowerment and all that kind of stuff, I would recommend this one. I still think it was worth it, even though some of it was like a little bit questionable. I think that the message was quite nice. This is a horror channel. I'll remind you now when we talk about Take Shelter, which I talked about in one of my videos, films that no one talks about. I love this film. I think that it was challenging, it was raw, and yeah, very interesting. It's about a man who is suffering from mental illness and his family, and yeah, I don't know how to explain it without giving too much away. So yeah, I would recommend. I then watched Scream, which I love. I just love Scream so much. And we watched this as a Patreon hangout. I watched Hard Candy and Knock Knock, and I did these both for Does This Offend You? Does This Offend You is a stream I do every single month with my friend Vicky from Nightmare Maven. And we talked about these two films. We did it on her channel. On my channel this month, there will be one, and it's going to be a really interesting, intense subject, so keep an eye out for that. But Knock Knock, I love that film. I know a lot of people are really split on it. Eli Roth, you know, what can I say? But, and even for me, Eli Roth, I'm like, man, I want to like him, you know? I find Knock Knock is a film that is easier to take in the second time you watch it because you know the outcome, but it definitely divides people. Hard Candy is a great film. I saw someone recently commented on one of my videos saying they couldn't watch Hard Candy because it had too much gore, but there's no gore in the film at all, so I don't know what that was about, but would highly recommend Hard Candy. I think it's an amazing film, and I've watched it like several times. Although this time I did get some nightmares, but I mean, I think we're just getting the pandemic nightmares at this point. Anyway. Out of Sight is a really weird ass action thriller by is it thriller? I guess, yeah, I guess so, maybe action crime. This one was so weird and it was trying to be so much and not, I don't know, it didn't go through with me. But look at this, look how you guys have rated it, and that's why I like following you guys back, because I love seeing what you guys think about these kind of films. So yeah, some of you guys have given, who's this? Chris Carr, you've given it 5 stars. I mean, I can't fault you. If you like it, you like it. It's got George Clooney and Jennifer Lopez, and he's like a criminal, and she's trying to take him down, but then they kind of have a romantic relationship, and it's very back and forth. It's very timelines intertwined, and it's very unbelievable. But that might be your thing. Obviously it's some people's. I have been watching some questionable things this month. I am not innocent. I watched You Should Have Left, which I did a review on, which is the new Kevin Bacon, people are saying House of Leaves ripoff. Yeah, it's funny because I do want to say in my review, I gave it a 6 out of 10, which is quite high. And upon reflection, I think I enjoyed the experience of watching it, but I actually don't think I should have rated it that high. I think I should have given it like a 5, like a midpoint, because it was more like I was just hyped that something was coming out. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't enjoy it as much as I feel like I rated it, if that makes sense. I then watched Rocket Man, which is the Elton John biopic. I like Elton John. I've seen him perform live, but I was expecting something a little bit more grittier. I don't know. I think obviously it does go into some of his questionable past. It just felt like they were trying to pack so much into such little time that they couldn't go into detail. That's just my thoughts. It was still enjoyable. I then watched B Movie. I know, I'm so sorry guys, like what is this? But I was really impressed by this. It's Jerry Seinfeld's movie. He like wrote it, and he stars in it with Renee Zellweger, and it's about bees, and it's like a call to action, and it was quite cute. It had some really weird humor in it, which I was expecting I'd heard about, but it actually was a pretty good story. If you haven't seen it and you have someone who would watch it with you, I would recommend it. I then watched Bean. See, we were having one of those nights, guys. Don't judge me. I watched Bean, which is my favorite Mr. Bean movie, the one when he goes to Hollywood, and he has, you know, the Whistler's mother painting. It makes me laugh every time. Oh, decompress. It was decompressing, guys. Okay, I swear, we're getting back into the horror. I then watched Horror Noir, which is the history of black horror. I am so excited that they let this to be free range on Shudder, so you don't have to sign in to watch it. So if you have a VPN, you can watch it at the moment. I'm not sure if that's still going. I'm sure it will still be going for at least July. It's really hard for us people who are international and don't have Shudder. We couldn't watch this film, and it's really hard to get our hands on Shudder originals, and I was so happy to finally be able to watch this one. I've been hearing so many good things about it. Absolutely loved it. It obviously goes through the history of black people within horror industry, whether that be actors, directors, all that kind of stuff, or really characters, which I think was so interesting, how people are portrayed, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I highly recommend you check it out. Really good, and the style it's done is very commentary, so they have a whole heap of filmmakers and people involved in the movies, in the cinema, just talking about different things, and they kind of pieced it together to make like a flowing story and go through the history. So I thought it was really well done, and also interesting because it's done in such a different way. I then watched Urban Legend, which was another Patreon hangout. I hadn't seen this film in so long, and I totally forgot about like the bogus ending. People are going to be mad about that because people love that movie. But the ending, my God, if you haven't watched it in a while, go back and see if you remember what actually happened in the end, because it's nuts. It's absolute nuts. I then finally got to watch Attack the Block, which I was so excited about because I heard they're making a sequel. So it kind of gave me the kick to watch the first one, because it's one of those films that had just been on my watch list for so long. And it's finally available on Foxtel if you're in Australia, that's cable. So we watched that and I was really impressed with it. It has a lot of really cool different details in there that I wasn't expecting. It's about a bunch of kids who are in the UK and their involvement with like the crime on their block, and aliens. And then aliens come and they like rescue the day. Obviously it's great representation, but it's a very interesting and unique perspective that doesn't get told enough, and it really goes in for it, which I really liked. It's about these kids and growing up in their circumstances and how that affects their lives, and the aliens are just so interesting in it. It's not something I would have picked when coming up with the concept. I don't know what to say. Like, they're so like futuristic, where the kids are so raw and like realistic, and just putting them together, I think it's a good mashup. It's something different, which is really cool. I then watched Relic, which I will have a review out on. I can't say too much on that yet. I watched Tom at the Farm, which was for a video that I did. Absolutely beautiful film by Xavier Dolan, and he's in it as well. He wrote it, directed it, he's in it. He's the mastermind apparently. Which is an amazing story. It's a French-Canadian film about a guy that goes to his former like lover who's just passed away. He goes and stays at their house for the funeral, and the mother doesn't know who he is. Anyway, it's a very strange story about abuse in the end. And yeah, I don't know how to say it, but it's a very serious and sinister story. Very different to anything I've seen before, and I would highly, highly recommend it. I then watched Alexandra's Project, which was for this same video, which is an Australian film about a woman who makes a videotape for her husband on his birthday, but it's not what you think. It's very sinister. I then watched Primer, which, what do I even say about Primer? I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's meant to be the most complex time travel movie ever made. And it's very raw and very like low budget, and it's more, it doesn't really explain everything to the viewer. The director, who I believe was an engineer, says that you're meant to watch it several times to understand it. So he does not explain anything in the film. So it's a lot to take in, but I watched an explainer video afterwards and it linked up so many things that I didn't even realize that were happening. But again, when I did research on it, I realized that you're meant to watch it several times to understand everything. So I don't feel too bad, but it is a very intense movie. And it's not like intense in the way that it's really dark and gritty. It's just an intense timeline. And I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it. Let me know what you guys think of Primer down below. I do really give them credit for going there and the extra step and not dumbing it down for the audience, but everyone I've spoken to about it really likes it and said that it took them a couple of watches to kind of clue on. I then watched Clean Shaven, which is an interesting film. It's actually quite a famous film. It's about a man who goes to try and find his daughter, but he's also dealing with mental health issues. He's schizophrenic, and it's quite dark. It's quite dark, quite slow, not a lot of dialogue. It's very art house. And I don't know if I'd recommend it, to be honest. I know it's probably like either love it or hate it kind of film, but it's kind of like a crime as he goes on. He does some awful things, and I don't know. I felt like it was way too dark for me, and I like dark, but it was dark and slow and stirring. It wasn't like you could connect with any of the characters. I then watched The Ones Below, which I hadn't realized when I watched this movie that I'd seen it before. It is about a woman who gets pregnant, and then she lives in kind of like a duplex, and then downstairs another couple move in who are also pregnant, and they have conflicting ideas. I'm gonna say that because I don't want to give away too much, but it's quite sinister and creepy. And yeah, when I was watching it, I'm like, man, I swear I've seen something like this before, and I looked it up on Letterboxd, and I had logged it before. I would probably recommend it. It's not a like amazing movie, but it's a good, decent watch. And it's something to watch maybe in the background, or if you just want something that's like a good payoff and like satisfying in a sinister kind of way, I would recommend it. I then watched Dorothy Mills, which was so hard to find. This is an Irish film about a girl who, about a girl who is dealing with severe issues after her horrific past, and like just the opening scenes are just so traumatic. It's like her doing some abuse, and she's just like a little girl, so someone travels to go see her and like, you know, check out the situation and see if she's safe and what's happening and trying to help her. The movie itself is not very good. The acting of the girl is pretty horrendous, and when you figure out what's going on, because it kind of gives, I don't want to put anything up on the screen that might give it away, but it takes a turn. And it's kind of sad that when you know the tagline, evil chose her, it's kind of sad when you figure out what's going on. But it's one of those movies that really blur the line between mental health and like paranormal. I'll leave it there. Very mysterious. I gave it in the middle because some of it was really good and some of it was like, what are you doing? But it was really hard to get my hands onto it. I then watched The Machinist, which I've seen before. Absolutely love that film. Pretty scary. Christian Bale in it. Yeah, I'm sure you guys have seen, like, he lost a lot of weight for it, and it's pretty terrifying watching it. I'm sure you guys have seen this one before, but if you haven't, it's a psychological thriller about a man who is suffering from sleep deprivation and the spiral it takes on his life that has to do with a crime and his past. Definitely check it out if you haven't. It's a good one, and if it hasn't been spoiled for you, it's really good. Speaking of films that are kind of spoiled for you, The Good Liar. We watched this one, just like on the weekend, and my gosh, is this the most predictable film I've ever seen. It was good though. Obviously it's got Helen Mirren in it and Ian McKellen, but I felt like it was just really obvious what was going to happen, but the path it takes to get there, I'll tell you what, that was something unique that I haven't seen in a long time. I gave it 7, which I guess I stand by that. I don't think it's a great film. I'm surprised I gave it 7. I should have given it 3, like 6. I then watched Empire Records, which I've seen a bunch. Love that film. I watched Disturbia, which I've seen a bunch. Also love that film. I've seen Disturbia so much because I really like it. And I mean, it's the whole kind of stalking aspect. And then I watched Black Snake Moan, which I haven't seen in years. I mean, this came out in 2006, which is insane. That's so crazy. 14 years ago. That's crazy, right? And I remember really liking it back in the day. Now it is so interesting to kind of revisit that film because it was so ahead of its time. If you haven't seen it, it's about Christina Ricci and Samuel L. Jackson, and she has a sex addiction and he kind of saves her. It's a weird ass movie. He chains her up. But context is very important in these situations. I then watched The Beach House, which I will be doing a review on, so I can't talk about that just yet. I finally watched Call Me By Your Name, which is, how many years ago? It's 3 years ago. It's a long time coming. This is a film that I've wanted to watch for so long. Finally watched it. Really enjoyed it. If you haven't seen it, it is based on a book, and it's about a young man who is living in Italy, and his parents have like a resident come and help them with some of the work they're doing and their relationship. Let's just put it that way, hey? I thought it was beautiful. I love the directing style. Obviously, the cinematography is amazing and the sound design, but I just like some of those shots they hold on, especially at the end. It's just lovely, and it's such a different perspective, which I love. I then watched Liar Liar. I watched that last night. That did not age well. Jim Carrey, I love him when he does serious roles. Like, I love The Truman Show. I love whenever he's like a serious man, but the slapstick comedy, I don't think that it's aged well for me. I'm sure you guys are screaming Ace Ventura at home, but I mean, I haven't watched that one in a while either, so there you go. For everything this month, I recommend Call Me By Your Name if that sounds like something you'd be into, Disturbia if you haven't, The Machinist if you haven't, the ones below, I recommend if you want to watch like an easy horror, Attack the Block, Horror Noir if you're into a documentary, Knock Knock and Hard Candy if you haven't seen them. I'm sure you've seen Scream. Take Shelter, of course. Becky, yes, watch that for sure. Ready or Not, if you haven't seen that, you need to watch it. You'll be very surprised. What else? I think that's kind of it that I recommend. If you haven't seen I Don't Feel at Home in This World Anymore, definitely check that out. But that's not it, guys. There is still plenty we have to talk about. Number one, I watched the 3rd season of Sinner. If you haven't heard about Sinner, it starts off as a TV show about Jessica Biel. Like the 1st season's about Jessica Biel. It's just Jessica Biel. Don't even know her character's name. It's like a crime mystery, kind of like True Detective in a way, but very moody. Like even True Detective's very moody, but this one is a little bit different. You find out about a mystery at the start of every single season. We'll get to that. Season 1 and season 2, this crazy mystery, and then from there you get the context around the situation, which I love knowing context. I think it's very important. So I really liked season 1 and season 2, the mysteries and trying to figure out what's happening. And especially season 1, you see something really horrific at the start and you're not sure why it's happening. And then when you know, all the layers come apart, it's very psychological, and it's got to do a lot with mental illness, which I think is, very interesting the way it comes apart. Season 3 also has a lot to do with mental illness, but this time in a very different way. I was not a fan of this season. It is about a man, let's just say someone mysterious shows up on his front door and, you know, his life spirals out of control because it's like someone from his past. But I feel like by episode 3 or episode 4, everything was out on the table and it wasn't the mystery that I had hoped that I really like about the show. It just seemed like a story about this guy and his complex. And I mean, I don't want to go into too much detail because it's spoilers, but I just don't find that kind of story interesting. Sure, it's like quite reflective, but it like makes me spiral. But yeah, I just don't find it that interesting from his perspective. I feel like that's something that a lot of people think about. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about, and I don't feel like it, I don't know, I just don't feel like it was highlighted in the best way. That is the only TV show I watched from start to end. I'm trying to get through Twin Peaks season 3. I'm gonna be really honest with you guys. When I was watching Twin Peaks, rewatching Twin Peaks season 2, some of you guys know my friend Dave, who was like a big supporter of my channel, he passed away. And I found out when I was watching Twin Peaks, and it's kind of like really hard to get back into it. Yeah, I know. I shouldn't like associate it with that, but it's just like, yeah. I was like in such a happy place with Twin Peaks during like the pandemic, and when we were like stuck inside, it was like my happy place. And it just like really brings back, I think it's the music as well, like really brings back that feeling. So anyway, I'm really trying to get back into that. I need to finish it because I do want to go on to watch Dark season 3. I haven't watched Dark season 2 either, so I need to like get back into that. But I do really want to talk about some books I read. I've been listening to some audiobooks lately. I listened to A Head Full of Ghosts by Paul Tremblay. Oh my god, this book was so good, and I heard so much hype about it, so I'm not surprised. I heard that Stephen King even said it was like terrifying and he's hard to scare. If you have not read this book, or if you find it hard to like get into reading books, this one is pretty short and sweet, and you can listen to the audio. I don't think it took that long to listen to the audiobook. It was amazing, and I would highly recommend the audiobook. If you don't know anything about it, I guess I'm just going to tell you a little bit. I don't want to go too much into it, but it is about a woman who has to recount her past to a journalist because something very intense happened in her childhood to do with her sister. It's about possession, and it's, yeah, I know, it's good. So definitely check it out. Highly recommend. I then listened to the Texas Chainsaw Confidential by Gunnar Hansen, and he reads the book in the audio book version. I thought it was really interesting. Some of the information, I mean, it goes on, like it goes scene by scene through the whole film to explain how they shot everything. But I feel like it was so educational and I have such a better idea of that whole film. Like my whole opinions kind of changed on it again. And not in a good way or a bad way as well. It's really interesting because you just find out like how many people read into certain aspects that were never meant to be read into and never meant to be what they seem to be. Does that make any sense? I don't agree with a lot of what he says about horror and like the psychological value at the very end, but I think it was really interesting to see it all come together, and I will definitely never watch the movie the same way. I do love the movie, don't get me wrong, but it was just super eye-opening for me, so really enjoyed that. If you do have any, especially audiobooks, but any books related to like horror movies and the making of that you really enjoy, please let me know down below. I really want to get educated in particular movies and like really go into, you know, delve in to particular facts. And I know there's a couple of really good horror movie books, but I would love to see what you guys have to recommend, especially if they're available in Audible, because that's what I use. I know it's not a sponsorship, I just really do use them. So as you can probably tell, my voice is going because I've been here talking for, it's probably been like 20 minutes for you guys, half an hour maybe. It's 50 minutes on this side. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thumbs up if you like the longer videos. I really appreciate you guys being here. And if you like my content, remember I do 2 new videos every single week talking about horror movies, thriller movies, reviews, all that good stuff. Creepy, kooky, culty. I'm here for it, and I hope you guys are too. I hope you guys are having a great day. Don't forget the link for this one, Justin Long, is down below. If you want to grab it, no pressure, and you can join my little appreciation club. And if you do grab it, please tag me in your photos and I'll share them because that's really cool. I hope you guys are having a great day. Stay spooky and stay safe. Bye guys.